Hello everyone, my name is King of Juice. Normally you'll catch me on Twitch, but today I'm making a video on Legacy Armors. Now I know most of the PC players already know what Legacy Armors are, but for the console players and some of the newer players, I'm going to break it down for you. See, back in Alpha and Season 1, they were adding all kinds of maps, armors, and a bunch of different features to Splitgate. They even had armor customization that allowed you to choose a head, a chest, and some legs. Those were removed in Season 2 moving forward, and then now we have Legacy Armors in its place. And only 5 other armors made the cut. However, with Season 4 and console release coming, or whatever it's going to be called, that's no longer the case. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be covering 10 armors in particular that I think are going to make it into Splitgate Season 4 from Legacy. And a few in particular I'm going to talk about in detail for various reasons. After that, I'm going to discuss why I didn't include certain armors in my list. For all intents and purposes, I tried to use the best variations of these skins that I had available to make them look the very best. Now the first armor that I'm going to talk about is Eternal. I used Holy for this one because it's a simple black and white skin that can easily show off this armor. Now what I really like about this armor is just how menacing it looks. Like, it almost reminds me of like an android or a cyborg or something like that. The features are almost human, like the lack of a nose and the defining brow that it has, but then those eyes just like cut you. Another thing I like about this armor is that it's one of the few with a symmetrical shoulder pad. Alright, the next one I'm going to talk about is Rasputin. Now for this one I used a green skin. Just like the last skin, one of the things I like about this armor is the fact that it's one of the few armors that has a symmetrical shoulder piece. Now that's not the only feature that I like on armors, even though that it is appreciated. I also like this big faceplate thing going on that reminds me of a certain particular Halo armor that you guys may know. But this one's a little bit different. It seems to have these dots on the visor, and also these nubs on the top that remind me of a bear or a cat. I think many people in the community will agree that this armor right here is definitely a keeper. Alright, this next one that I'm going to talk about is called Ravager. And now I know you're thinking, this is the one that I use all the time, of course it's going to be in the list. Well, that's why I chose to make it purple and not green. I like this armor for the same reason as the others. Symmetrical shoulder pads, check. Human-like face, check. These fucking hands, check. But there are about 4 more reasons that I can tell you why I like this armor. The first thing I want to point out is that it has sort of a clothy looking undersuit. And the second thing is it kind of reminds me of a Toku hero to some degree. And then the last 2 things are going to be these fucking hands. Alright, moving on to the next one. We're going to talk about Sellsword. I know you're thinking, I used to use this when I mixed it back in Season 1. Well, I used Silver before and now I'm using Mars because it can define the features a lot better. Surprisingly enough, this armor isn't symmetrical in the shoulders. The body looks good everywhere else, and that face looks pretty familiar, but oh gosh, what is that? The only thing I really don't like about this armor is that big grate that's on the head. It looks a little funky, and I know what they were going for, but I think if they took it down a notch, it'd probably be fine. Alright, the next one we're going to talk about is called Soldier. Alright, for this one I used the gray M90, and as you can tell, I've only got 2 colors for this one, and I'll tell you why. Like most of the armors in this list, this armor has a very humanoid looking appearance, and takes inspiration from modern soldiers. Now I like a lot of things about this armor. Overall it looks really nice, but the fatal flaw and the main reason why I only have 2 colors unlocked for this armor is it doesn't take color very well. For some reason the overall texture of the armor never really was able to pick up colors that they had, and I'm not really sure what it would take at the development level, but allowing this armor to take on color palettes a lot easier could easily make this ready for Season 4. Now moving on to the last one that I'm going to mention before talking about the last 4 that are extra special. I'm going to be talking about Solar. I put this armor into an aquatic skin, and that's very fitting because this armor looks very aquatic. I actually kind of wanted this one to be last, even though everything was sort of alphabetical. And the first thing you're going to notice about this is that it is not very humanoid at all. And this armor suffered a very similar problem as the last armor that I mentioned, but it was only in certain parts and it really wasn't as bad. The fact that this armor looks so unique is pretty much the whole reason why I want it in Season 4. These last 4 armors I'm going to mention are actually very special and have a high likelihood to be in the game over any of these other ones. And that reason is jetpacks. All of these armors already have a matching jetpack in the non-legacy list of the game. And these names are Executioner, Morning, Soulless, and Warden. These jetpacks already look good enough on their own, but just like the reasoning for the removal of the armor customization options in Season 1, sometimes things just look really good together. Now I didn't have the matching skins for these, but I tried to do the best that I could, and now I'm actually going to talk about the armors individually on their own. Alright, the first one I'm going to talk about is Executioner. I tried to set some of these in default like this one. Not much can be said about this armor aside from the symmetry that it has, but it's got this long face, long visor type of thing going for it like a lot of the other fan favorites in this game. Next I'm going to talk about Morning. I think I really like Frost as a color. This one genuinely looks really nice, and I'm not sure which one came first, but I would almost call this like an Eternal Part 2. It's got a lot of the same features that armor boasts. It's got the same menacing eyes and a really defined brow, and I think it's just the color on this armor, but it just seems a little bit busy, and it could be simplified easily for Season 4. Next we're going to talk about Soulless. I put this one into default as well. I really like the helmet on this armor. Now eyes must really captivate me as a feature. This one has just little beady lights. The armor itself though just feels like one big piece to me. The main thing that doesn't work for me is the chest and abs, but the shoulders are actually quite nice. And before I let you know why some armors didn't make the list, I'm going to be talking about Warden. Now I put Warden into squash for whatever reason. This one has a lot of features to it that would probably accidentally make it into a number 1 if this was actually a list of top armors that I would use. It has the symmetry going for it, but it also has that long head and the visor that we all love. I feel like this closely resembles Old Bones, and even though that Vulture is already in the modern list, and Executioner resembles Vulture a lot more than this one does, and maybe more of the same is better, that's up to them to decide, but I still think this is a good pick for Season 4. Now to talk about the armors that didn't make it in the list. I'm not going to talk about any of these ones in detail, nor am I going to name them by name, but I am going to bring up some other ones that you might know. The main offense to most of these armors is actually the big arms. I even threw Ox in here as an offender of the big arms, even though I'm pretty sure Ox is an exclusive skin that's going to move on. Some of these actually don't look too bad, and a lot of it could actually be cleaned up or redone in some capacity. But if you look at these two pictures, you'll notice that Leto looks a hell of a lot like Blood. Some of these assets can also be changed into something really nice. But that's everything that I have for you guys. If you want, leave a comment below and let me know which legacy armors that you like the most. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, subscribe to the channel and check out the links to my other socials below. See you guys in the next one. See ya!